Mindanao probably will go its way. But we don't want it that way. It should be integrated, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. And sovereignty is in the national government. You can have a federal council or a federal state, like California federal, but you have the union. But the Moro National Liberation Front, these are belligerent groups, and you cannot blame them because they have been always oppressed in history, and they fight back. But it is a problem being addressed by the president and by a panel consisting of brilliant lawyers. In fact, the head was the former dean of the College of Law, Leone. He's brilliant. He knows what he's talking about. What I'm telling you is I don't know the solution to these problems. But what I'm telling you is it is now being addressed by a leadership that has the faith and trust of the people. It did not happen that way previously. But under Ninoy Aquino, it is happening.
That's a very difficult task because of the language barriers, the cultural differences.
Yes, exactly.
And rather than, how do you get these people together if you don't recognize that they are different?
They are different. And our movies, the movies that are blockbuster movies, they always have this message: we will be one, we are one people, we are Christians, you are Muslim, but we are one. That is not true.
Well, when you say
Islamic is Islamic.
Yes.
Christian Filipinos are Christian. There can be coexistence, but they cannot be one.
Because if
They
there
have their
is
own
one,
religious, yeah.
how are they identified
Yes,
as the one?
yes.
I mean, do we speak now Tagalog or Cebuano? Or
Exactly.
Which is the one?
Even among Christians, we are not one. As you said, should it be Tagalog? Should it be Cebuano? As far as the Cebuanos are concerned, the national tongue is Cebuano. There are more Cebuanos speaking Cebuano than Tagalog is speaking Tagalog.
Talaga?
Yes, as far as the Tagalogs are concerned, it is Tagalog. You have not asked me. As far as I'm concerned, it should be Pampangueño. If I may add to the confusion, at least it was that way with President Gloria Arroyo. Oh, gone are those days.
Yeah.
I miss them. Because we would sing in Kapampangan, ati ko mong sing-sing. Metong yung tip, we would talk in Kapampangan, kay Leon, kay Tigre, ko tatakot, kay kayo pa. And then, and it came to pass that in those days, that we were that way. Now, no more. It's the Aquino administration. And it came to pass. You know, everything is ephemeral.
But there is the Nakam group that is trying to recognize and acknowledge all the different languages and to perpetuate the different languages and the cultures.
Yes, but you know,
it would be one nation.
You know who said that? Who said that? It was Manuel Luis Quezon. Because Manuel Luis Quezon, the father of the Filipino tongue, the father of Tagalog, he saw to it there would be a provision. There will be one national language which will be based on the dialects. The dialects will be included. It's not all Tagalog. You will borrow words from Ilocos, from Cebu, and the members of the Tagalog panel included Visayan linguists. But what happened to that provision? Who observed it?
I think because where the language goes, so goes the culture. If
yes.
you lose the language,
yes.
you lose the culture. So as an Ilocano, I would be, why can't we then mount the Ilocano language as the primary language and borrow from the Tagalog
exactly.
and borrow from Cebuano? I think therein lies the difference. I would like to see that, again, one nation recognizing all of the differences. Now, how do you do that? I think that would be easier than to say we are one.
Yes, yes.
But for practical purposes, wouldn't you say that English is the working language?
I think English, because it's a universal language.
And the language of technology, the language of engineering, the language of the sciences. That is why should it be either or, Tagalog or English?
Yes.
Why not Tagalog and English and Cebuano and Ilocano Jose Rizal himself
Ilonggo, and
was
all these
conversant
different
with
languages.
22 languages,
Oh,
yes.
I think it's amazing that the children there are first allowed to learn their language, the language of the home, and then the Tagalog, and then the English, which is amazing to me that they can speak 3 languages by the time they're in the 9th grade. They have 3 languages. This to me is amazing. So how do we
because now
change it to 1 language?
But why do you want to change it to 1 language?
I would not. I would like to
let me tell you
recognize
something.
everyone for the language and the culture that they have, because if that goes, then we have lost something. Humankind has lost something. For every culture that disappears, we lose something.
I want to say,
yes.
My father was assigned to Burma. Okay, as you know, Burma was part of the British Empire before. It got to the stage when the nation, the newspaper in English, was considered tops. When Burma became a nation, they completely cut off English as it was no longer taught at school. So what happens? When the Burmese students went abroad, they had to study English, which was a working language. When you talk about having 1 language, I don't share that.
No, I
because
don't
I
either.
think
I don't
because
either.
first of all, I don't think you succeed, and if you and you also find with children, it's amazing how capable they are. I have a niece, grandniece. Alili has an only son.
Yes,
and
yes.
And this daughter.
My classmate, you mean? In
No,
UP?
your classmate was Amefil.
Yes, Amefil and Aleli. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I confused you.
Alili's granddaughter, Alili's son married a Japanese lady. So the child is bilingual, and this kid, Makaya Manam, the child, will turn to me and talk in beautiful English, and she can tell her way in Japanese. Children are like that, and when my nephew was in
the young
Germany,
ones,
he spoke
they get
German like you don't know what. So when you say that, you just accept the fact, I think, that most children are capable of doing many languages.
And I agree with you, which is why
But
I'm
talking
feeling
about 1
not
language
to erase
doesn't-
1 language. No, I'm not saying 1 language. I'm saying why not have all of the languages
Yes.
and allow them to flourish.
Yeah,
You know,
instead of
in one
And wherever,
umbrella.
because the need, if you have the need to communicate, you will learn that language, i.e. English or Tagalog.
But did you
will learn
notice in Manila and in Luzon, when they speak, it's a combination of Tagalog, English, Taglish.
Yes.
And although this is condemned by
Everybody.
purists,
Yes.
the fact is it works.
Yeah, exactly.
It is workable. It is doable, Taglish. But of course, they should know. The medium of instruction is Filipino. I teach Jose Rizal in Filipino, although there are English words I use. Because that way I get better effect on the students. They recite more. They have many things to say because they are not bothered by English grammar. So why don't you say what you want to say? Give me the idea. And he would be fecund. He has so many things to say because you're allowing him to speak in Tagalog. Now, the whole trouble is, I told him, you're an engineering student, and then you will take your engineering professional competence, professional exams, and that will be in English. It is in English. So you see, you have to study. Yes, sir. Plus English is required. So English, Tagalog. And what's wrong with the Spanish? Spanish is too aristocratic, It is too aloof. Let me give you a joke on Spanish. One time, in the campaign in Plaza Miranda, Senator Manahan would love to say, because he was raised Spanish education, he would say, well, of course, con excepción de la regla. And this one is called exception de la regla. This was Plaza Miranda, before the people he was campaigning. You know what the people shouted back? Meron daw siyang regla. Nire-regla raw siya. When in fact, what Manahan said, con exception de la regla. With the exception to the rule. Ay, nire-regla pa. that defeated him. Can you imagine if you tell
Yeah.
a candidate na nire-regla? They make fun
Yeah.
because they cannot connect.
Yes.
Do not use a language where they cannot connect to it. Yes, yes.
I heard you talk about, this engineering student and
Yeah.
CS2 examiner. I don't know if they've changed it, but I understand that students taking up law in the Philippines are required to have a certain standard of Spanish, because some of our laws are still in Spanish. I don't know if that's been
It's
changed.
not, in UST, yes, but even UST changed it because most of them are translated anyway.
Before.
Yes, but you see, our civil code was really based on the Spanish civil code. Even our criminal code carries the phrases prisión perpetua. But you know, given today's universities, and because Spanish is not always used, as for the coins, the good coins will replace the bad coins. So the usable language replaces Spanish. My friend always whines and says they no longer speak Spanish. My best friend from the Real Academia de la Lengua Española, he would translate many of my essays and give them to El Mundo Hispánico, the largest circulating newspaper in Madrid. But you see, Guillermo, but why should they speak Spanish? Especially, they identify Spanish as the language of oppression, which is wrong, you know, because it was really used as a language of oppression. So, in history, it is remembered as the language of Padre Salvi, oppression, oppressive, and even now, when they want to make fun of you, they speak in Spanish, and Filipinos do not like it that way. That's why they say, Spanish entresuelo. Your Spanish is from the entresuelo. That means it's a low kind. It should not be that way because Spanish is a great and a beautiful language. Why do we have that prejudice? It is born of history. It is associated with our history. And it is true, Spain did not encourage the teaching of Spanish. Unlike the Americans, encourage the teaching of English. But we are back to the problem. One thing I like about Pinoy Aquino, he would always speak in very good Tagalog. State of the Nation address. One of the first presidents to do this. He would address the Filipino people in beautiful Tagalog. He's eloquent, and the Filipinos can react. But then, of course, the people in Cebu would say, I would rather he spoke in Cebuano, except he's not Cebuano. He is Tarlaqueño.
Please, everybody.
From Tarlac. It is part of, I think it's part of growth, is it not? Language can never be fossilized. There can be no academy unless it is the French Academy. Look what happened to French. An academy of superior people saying this is the correct French, that is the bad French. What happened to French? When it used to be the language of the intellectuals in the 18th and 19th centuries. But English was not that way. English developed the way it developed. It became engrafted with additional, especially the Americans, enriched the English language. For example, I will never understand the meaning of at the end of the day. It's always a common expression, isn't it? At the end of the day, I wonder, when is that? Where is that? Finally, what he meant was finally, or in sum, what happened was eventually, instead of saying that at the end of the day, and everyone's saying it, that is Americanism, is it not? And that is okay, because it is used by the people. Americans speak that way. Who are we, if we are academics, to tell them that is not the way to speak the language? Look at the rap of the black Americans. Colorful, lyrical. But that this will be frowned upon by the Oxford English Dictionary. Who cares? Who even goes to the Oxford English Dictionary based on historical principles? That's the title of that. I have that. One of the first I had when I studied in England was to have this monumental Oxford English Dictionary. based on historical principles. I like that. In 1600, the meaning of the word was this way. In 1900, the meaning, but who cares?
They care.
Yes, the scholars.
And they're very critical.
One thing I like about the Americans, they
They
speak
just go
it,
their own
and
merry
that is the
way.
They
way.
refuse to be intimidated because that can be very intimidating to a child. You
Yes.
know, according to the Oxford Dictionary,
Yes,
that's
based
very
on historic-
intimidating. Rather than
very-
encouraging the child to speak
Yeah.
and learn and explain, explain.
Yeah. You cannot say that to
Simple
a child.
English.
Teaching English.
But I don't believe any teacher teaching children will say, in the Oxford English, no, nobody teaches that way.
They laugh at you.
Yes, they will. I was in a movie. Look, I was watching a movie, and there was this old lady, and it was a good movie. Then all of a sudden, the character quoted French phrases, French expressions, and the lady said, "What is he saying?" Speaking to herself, "What is he talking about?" And then he looked at me. Why do they talk that way?
What did you say?
It's probably their way of speaking. I said, what is he talking about? You know, it does not create respect or,
Communication.
oh, he's a great scholar, he speaks in French. No, you become funny, you know. You are
They don't
funny to them,
understand.
they don't listen. When they should be, you are communicating. The purpose of language
It's
is to
communication.
communicate.
Communicate.
Therefore, if you could not communicate, and you are using all these phrases, sometimes I catch myself, but I do it for only one reason, to terrorize my students,
I'll tell
so
you.
that they will jot down. Look, I will use a foreign expression. I will not translate. You will go to the encyclopedia,
And
go
read
to
it
your
out.
Google, go to your Wikipedia or what. I will not translate, but they look at you aghast. They must think me to be very funny because I'm supposed to be
Intimidating, perhaps. Intimidating.
and that is not the purpose of a teacher, is it?
Yeah.
To
Well, at
intimidate?
the university level, perhaps that's very motivating.
Yes,
and challenging,
motivating.
very challenging.
Yes, but to intimidate them, wow.
Yes, it's very cool.
Yes, I like what
But
you
at the
said. To
university
challenge,
level,
yes.
To challenge, to
Challenge
motivate.
them.